Hey guys, welcome to the Livewell, brought to you by Digital Sportsman, where we get together with our community and talk fishing. The show's fixing to start, we're getting everything ready. But in the meantime, we want to tell you about our fine partners that not only make this show possible, but are companies that we absolutely love and stand behind. Groove Fishing, changing the norm of tackle storage. Sonar Pros, specializing in high-end installations across all electronic brands. Go where the pros go. Lipsticker Fishing, specializing in putting clients on giant Lake Lanier bass. Bill Payne's Guide Service, fish with a legend on Lake Allatoona, seasonal smallmouth trips, or even get your sonar dialed in. Brooks Anderson Fishing, guide trips and educating today's anglers on Lake Lanier. Big League Charters, fish with a pro on Tellico, Fort Loudon, Watts Bar, and Chickamauga. Money Saver Lure Retriever, designed to break your lure free from almost any snag. Fishers of Hope, benefit fishing tournaments to help people in need. Serve IT, industry-leading IT services for your business. Change the way you manage IT. Turner Tire, Jasper, Georgia's most trusted family-owned tire center. Atlanta Safe House, the trusted source for safes and gun safes in Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, and Alabama. And of course, Digital Sportsman, a new way to discover and book unforgettable outdoor experiences with local trusted guides. Go to FNGO.com to get direct links to all our fine partners. Get ready. Let's talk fishing. All right, guys. Welcome to the Livewell this Tuesday night. You'll have to excuse us because during the intro, Ken over here was laying back like he was asleep. Yeah, and I took this big old worm right here, and about 122 miles an hour, I popped him right in the face with it. Eyeball. Hit him in the eyeball. So sorry that we were laughing a little bit, but it's going to be that kind of night. So anyway, what's up, everybody? Glad you guys are already here. And if you end up watching us on TikTok, we appreciate you guys joining us. Got a great episode tonight. Get it together, Danny. Listen, you know how this show rolls. It's good grief. It's been a long day, dude. Yeah, it's been a long day. Dad's already going, why am I here? But anyway, guys, hey, listen, appreciate you joining us tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, click the notification bell. If you end up popping in on TikTok, make sure you follow us and do all the stuff the cool kids do. But all you guys, Chandler, Irwin, every one of you, appreciate you joining us tonight. I hope you brought your questions and your comments because we have us a biologist on the show tonight, and that is Thad Moody with Thad Moody Outdoors. And we're going to bring him in right after I tell you about a couple things that we need to get out there. The Ryan Sheffield Benefit Tournament, September 6th. We're already taking registration here at the shop. And how much did we charge for that thing again?
$100.
$100.
Yeah.
50-50 split. All right, so you guys can do that. If you go on the FNGO group page, the raffle tickets and everything, you'll see the companies that are already stepping up, and you can buy raffle tickets, and we'll put out more information on that. But it's going to be a really good time to help Ryan out and his family during this kind of tough time. And again, another chance for all of us to get together as a community and meet over there at the boat ramp, fish a little bit, and just have a really good time. Then, of course, go ahead and mark December 6th on your calendar. That's our Toys for Tots tournament. What's up, Hogan there? Our first Toys for Tots. And I see some questions already. Do I sell the Groove Jig box at the shop? Not yet, but I will. And so that is going to be, what I say, December 6th. I got so many things going on in my head right now. Did I say it right, Alex?
Yeah, December 6th.
December 6th.
Yes, sir.
More information to come. How about we just leave it at that? It's been one of them days. Go ahead and bring that in. We need a way to donate from afar, Steve Billington. You can. You can actually Venmo or PayPal us here at the shop and just hit me after the show on Facebook, and I'll give you those where you can send a donation, and we'll make sure that they get all the money from that and everything. So for you guys, and even if you're local and you don't want to fish it, you can drop off some money here or however, Venmo, PayPal, but we'll make sure we get it all to Ryan and everybody. But it's going to be a good time. Both of those things are going to be good.
Yeah.
But it's been a long day, and I'm ready to talk fishing some more. So go ahead and let's bring our guest on tonight after I have absolutely murdered the intro to this show. Thad, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good.
Anyway, I see you always in the comment section. You're always one of the smarter guys in the comment section. So it made sense to bring you on and let you, use your knowledge to educate all of us. But, in all honesty, seriously, where's the robe, Thad?
So I'm not wearing the robe tonight because I just had I had 2 cancerous masses removed from my back. So I've got a bunch of stitches back there. and I sweat so much, and it makes it so itchy. I cannot. I'm doing good to wear a shirt right now, to be honest with you. So
I got you. But you on the mend from that? Everything good?
yeah, it's I actually got my report back today. Everything was removed. I got a clean bill of health. I just still got another week and a half where I can even pick up a rod and reel or anything over 5 pounds, and about 3 before I can start casting. But I've gotten following the doctor's orders to the T because I've got a Bassmaster kayak event on Toledo Bend at the end of September, so I got to get healthy.
I got you. Okay, I understand that. Now, for those that do not know who Thad Moody is, let's just start it off with a softball question, or just give everybody a little bit of background on who you are, what you do. You can throw out your socials too at this time, and then we'll get started picking your brain.
I got you. So my name's Thad Moody. I've got a bachelor's degree from Mississippi State University in wildlife, fisheries, aquaculture biology. I've got a master's in conservation biology. I'm a big time kayak tournament angler. I am involved with a lot of youth programs. I helped start the sport fishing program for our 4-H here in Mississippi. I helped kickstart that and got a bunch of kids in it. Avid spear fisherman, tournament angler. Anything I can do on the water is pretty much what I do.
I like that. Austin on TikTok says, let's go. And seriously, guys on TikTok, if you come in and out, if you want to get the full experience and actually see this beautiful man, if you go to FNGO on YouTube, you can see him in all his glory. He just started an outdoorsman YouTube. Good for you. Absolutely. Yeah. Let us know what it is.
I sure do. So if y'all want to find me, Instagram and TikTok is Thad Moody Outdoors. YouTube is Thad Moody Outdoors. And on my YouTube, along with, I'm starting, a bunch of just long form stuff, but I've started a Bass and Biology podcast where I take a lot of the science behind fishing. I do some interviews too. I take a lot of the science behind fishing and breaking down lakes and lures and stuff like that, and break it down to the simplest method. Because again, I work with kids, so I try to break it down to where, even though I'm not directly involved with organizations anymore, they can use my podcast and my information and send it to the kids. So I break it down as simple as I can, which, to be honest, works great with adults too.
Oh, it does for this group.
Yeah, it does for me.
I was sitting there thinking about what's the average IQ of me and my followers like that. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, is Sarah Moody your wife or your mom?
That is my wife.
Okay, well, she says you're beautiful. And just to let you know that, it's always good to have, the home life right behind you, pushing you and all that.
I could not do anything without her. Like, I just finished my master. I started my master's program 3 years ago when a month after my kid was born, and she supports all my fishing, my everything outdoors. I could not do anything I do without her, and she's also my video editor. So shout out to her.
Okay. Now listen, excellent answer and a smart answer. Both of that right there. So Steve Billington says Sarah's the best support system ever, and that's good. You need a good support system. That's awesome. Blah, blah, blah. I can't talk tonight. What do you reckon that is? Why that? What's going on with me? Am I having a stroke right here? I don't know. We'll get it going. Brad Silvers, we're gonna go ahead and jump on a kind of a question. This guy fishes Carter's up here, and if you're familiar with Carter's, maybe you are, maybe you're not. It's a very deep, clear water lake. It's got alewives in it. Deep cousin, compared to herring, blueback herring. Do you know anything about alewives?
I know a little about them. Are you wanting to mimic them, or are you wanting to try to catch them to use them for bait?
No, he wants to mimic them.
He wants to mimic them. I mean, if they're that deep, you got to get. You really need to figure out exactly what color they are on the surface and then match that color there, but make sure the colors you use match, because as that stuff drops further down, colors change drastically. Like when I'm spearfishing and I shoot a red snapper, that thing is silver, a lot like silvers when I shoot it. So whenever you're picking your baits to mimic them, especially a deeper fish like that, if you're targeting deep fish, make sure that whatever you choose is going to mimic it, not just on the surface like you can see in our light, but make sure it's mimicking it in the water, that the colors you choose change the same as it drops down in the water column.
Okay, that's interesting. So we talk about this is going to the colors and everything. And yeah, Steve, I might have had too many sodas during the lunch hour. We talk about color here, and the color chartreuse, that it doesn't look.
No,
it looks yellow to us, but not to a fish, because of the difference in the cones and everything in their eyes, or the lack of the blue cone or whatever it is. Can you kind of describe exactly what we're supposed to be thinking as the bait drops down? How does it change?
So as you drop down, and there's a great video I've seen online, and I wish I had a way to show y'all off the top of my head. There's a great video of of scuba divers who take a whole set of magic markers down in the water, and it's got all the caps on it. And it shows you at like 5 foot, 10 foot, 15 foot, 20 foot, how all the different colors change as you descend in depth. And colors you never would have thought would look like that, look exactly like that as you go down deeper. And fish a lot of the times, when talking about the rods and cones, as we see the color spectrum, it's not the same as they see the color spectrum. Their rods and cones are set up differently. Not only, you know, us versus them, but fish per fish. A rod, like they have a ton of rod cells, which is what brings in light. It's like a walleye. You shine a light on them, they have huge reflective eyes. They're deep water predators. They have more rods in their eyes that bring in more light versus, your catfish with little beady eyes who don't have a whole lot of rods, period. And they use their barbels, that we know as whiskers, to hunt with. So as your target species, you need to take that into account, because what looks to a bass may not look the same to a walleye at depth because of the number of rods that they have. Same with cones. Their cones are genetic, and they're just cellularly a little bit different than ours. They're the same, but they're not. They have a different color spectrum in it. That's about the best I can describe that without getting just real in depth into stuff.
Oh, you can go as in depth as you want to go. But we do have another question. When did the crewfish normally start to hatch on the chick?
That's I'm not in that area. I don't know what he means about the crewfish.
What the hell's a crewfish?
Mm-hmm.
So, Chandler, tell us what a crewfish is, because us Georgia boys have no idea what you're talking about.
And see, that's another thing you see too in my world is, people have different names for different fish. Mississippi, they're crappie. Down in Louisiana, they're sac-a-lait.
Yeah.
Other people call them white perch, but up north there's an actual species of fish called a white perch. So that's why you see scientific names are important, because white oak is, Quercus alba, no matter where you go in the world, but people call it different tree names.
Okay, hey, listen. This is an instance where he spelled it wrong. He meant crawfish.
Oh.
I have no idea what a crewfish is. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I was thinking that's a new one on me.
Yeah, when did the crawfish normally start to hatch on the chick?
Depends on the species and how the winter is and the water temperature. I want to say that they tend to be kind of a mid to spring, if I remember right, because I know when I've duck hunted in that area, I've seen little tiny ones in January was on warmer years that I've seen them. So it just depends on weather and stuff. That has a lot to do with spawn and everything for all species of aquatic animals.
Okay, excellent. And also, you know what I failed to do at the beginning of the show? I didn't introduce my fine co-host tonight. So I got John Aldred to my right here. There you go. And I'll look at smile. You can at least smile. There you go. And then I got Ken over here. You can smile too. They're both tired. And all that.
Hit in the face with a worm.
I did hit him in the face with a worm. He's sold up. He's mad at me, but he'll get over it. Make sure you guys, when you get a question, you jump in. You too, Alex. But let's go with fishing with plats. In muddy water, would you recommend using reaction baits or slowly working plastics?
That's a two-sided question. In extremely, like, I fish in chocolate milk here in Mississippi. It's not called the muddy Mississippi water for nothing. We don't have a lot of hard bottoms. Most days, 1 to 2 foot visibility max, and that's on a really good day if there's no rain or sediment in the water. If it's really muddy, if I'm working soft plastics, it's going to be a darker soft plastic. That way they can at least see the outline of it. And they can see the outline, a lot of the times, trigger a predatory response. But that's in your muddier waters. That's why I find a lot of like chatterbaits, crankbaits that put off a good bit of vibration. If I'm throwing a spinnerbait, I'll be a willow with a Colorado blade on it, or sometimes even a double Colorado blade on that. So it really depends on what depth you're fishing in the muddy water. And as long as you choose like a darker color, in my experience, it works a lot better, because if it's somewhat muddy, I'll throw a green pumpkin, swagger stick. But if it's, real dark after rain or something, it's real murky, I'll throw a black and blue or even a solid black swagger stick. and work it like that on, especially on a wacky worm, you can flutter it and make it look like all kind of different prey animals, because wacky worms are super versatile. And when they designed that particular bait for the motions, they knew what they were doing, and I think that's why it became a phenomenon.
I think I like it. I absolutely like it. Is it true that chartreuse looks white to bass? And that's what we've been told. It looks like a bright white.
Yeah, from all my understanding, it's like a silverish white.
Okay.
But it almost gives more of a breakup than, like, say, your Bill Lewis, your rattle traps, those solid silver rattle traps, or solid white things. It almost has a little more texture and breakup to it than as opposed to something that's already that color.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Now I'm going to ask you this question. This is for me. Well, I had a question. Daggum, I forgot it. Look, I am struggling tonight. No, what was it? It was a color question. And then I was listening to him talk about chart and all that. Oh, I know. Here it is. June bug. I got told that June bug is the only color that looks the same to us and to the fish. Is that true?
That I have a lot of answers. That ain't one of the ones I have, unfortunately. I know for some reason a lot of people throw it and have a lot of success with it in later summer. So the color palette of it, up to a certain depth, because red's the first color that goes away underwater, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it looks exactly the same, because it has, if I'm thinking of the right one, it has a good bit of red flake and stuff in it. But I don't know the answer to that one.
That's just what they tell me. Okay, but let me ask you this then. If red's the first color to go, why do guys put red hooks on deep diving crankbaits?
Because from our color spectrum, red may be the first to go, but blood is, at 10 foot of a fish sees blood, it knows it's, or to say a shark or something, or it's given off as a wounded bait fish, and it's clear enough for it to see. Red is still red to them.
Okay.
It's blood is blood at that depth, no matter what. You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it disappears to us.
The red hook thing is never just made. I get, like having outthrow stuff that's got like a red up under the chin of it, especially like a crankbait or something. The red hooks always kind of was weird to me. I get it, but I don't get it. So,
okay, I got you that. Do colors change the same in salt water as they do in fresh water? Is there a difference?
It really, that too depends, because the colors change because what the water allows from the visible light spectrum to cut through it. A lot of your salt water, 9 out of 10 times, is pretty dang clear.
Mm-hmm.
You can see pretty well. You have a lot of viz down there, as opposed to here in Mississippi, where you have maybe 1 to 2 foot of viz on a good day, 3 max, and that light's not penetrating as deep. So them colors may be a little off comparatively to salt water, just because that light's not able to penetrate through the water at depth to reflect off of it. Because the colors we see, the way it works is, the reason that this shirt looks blue and white is because the colors reflect blue and white to our eyes. That's the color of light that's reflecting off of it. So if that light's not able to penetrate real deep, it's not able to reflect these exact colors because of how murky it is. In the ocean, there's days I have 100 foot of viz, and there's days I have 20 foot of viz, and you can tell because those fish do look a little bit different on those days.
Okay, that makes sense. And you guys on TikTok, if you want the full experience, come over here to FNGO on YouTube, and you can actually see Thad talking and the rest of the guys. You guys got any questions before I go to the next one? Alex, you good?
No, I'm good for
now.
Want
to make sure I give you guys.
I'm going to bounce back up to the muddy water.
Yeah.
I tend to go with a larger bait in the muddy water because it's going to displace more, so they can feel it when they may not be able to see it. Also, the bass tend to stick very, very close to cover if it's really muddy. You need to make tight casts to your cover.
100%.
Okay, dropping that juice there, John. I like it. Did you have one?
Yep.
Go ahead. Shoot it.
When a crawdad is born in the spring, what color are they typically? And how does that change throughout the year? Like if a lake has vegetation or not. So you might hear that a crawdad gets a little blue in it, depending on what lake's in it, what vegetation's in it. How does that change throughout the year, starting from when it first comes out?
So from my understanding, I didn't do just a ton of invertebrate study on that. I took a few classes in it, but from my understanding is a lot of your color, if color changes are going to happen, it's going to happen after it molts. So it may only molt, 1 or 2 times a year. So if it's born brown, it may be brown for the first 4 or 5 molts, and something changes in that ecosystem. That then allows it to change to a different one. One big example I've seen is a saddleback crawfish, which it was up in Missouri where I was studying bear at. We kept it in a thing and it molted, and I don't know what in the water. I don't know if it was the pH. I don't know if it was the vegetation we had in the aquarium. It actually turned blue and became a blue phase on that. So that's really a big environmental impact. It could be toxins in the water. It could be pollution. It could be the vegetation. It could be how murky, how much rains happen, how much quicker the water temperature changes. Or the food is available now. There's all kind of factors in that, both limiting and external factors that could create a different color phase in a crawfish.
Was that good?
Good.
Good. All right. Steve Billington Fishing. Do you feel the anecdotal things anglers say about bass typically hold true? Or are humans just desperate to project human reasoning on dumb fish to feel better about not catching them? That's a good statement right there.
Look, I've had bass make me feel real dumb, but when it breaks down to it, these are animals just like anything else. They learn, they adapt. I've seen bass I've hooked into, 2 times. It went straight to the same log, wrapped around, and used that log to pull the hook. I've seen them where they'll stop biting certain baits because they've realized that it's something bad happens to the hat when they bite it. And the best example I can give of, even though fish are, they're at their core, they're a dumb predator and eventually will get to bite on anything. They can learn. And the best example I've ever seen of this is there was an experiment done back in the 70s, I think 70s or 60s, where they flashed the light on the earthworm and shocked it. And after like the 10,000th time or something, they flashed that light and the worm flinched. So anything is able to adapt and overcome and learn. It's just at which point do they stop? At which point does that learning go out the door when a severe predator response is triggered? Because if they didn't learn and they didn't adapt and they didn't realize stuff, the baits we threw back in the day would still be working. We wouldn't have to innovate new baits to get them to bite better.
My wife is going to say I'm the earthworm. Takes me about 10,000 times, and eventually I'll figure it out 100%.
I saw one. Do I fish against Christine Fisher? Whoever said that, I probably will be if she's down on Toledo Bend, and I hope I don't get beat by her, but I wholeheartedly expect for her to fish really well in that lake and probably with me. So I'll go ahead and say that she is an absolute stick.
She is. Go ahead and go on down. Go all the way down on the comments because we are so far behind because we're asking questions. So if I missed your question already, type it again. We're going to start off with this one. Silver Punk. What's a better dark color, blue or purple?
I like blue over purple myself, mainly because of where I fish. There's not a lot of bait fish that have just a ton of purple in them. Every now and then when a bull bluegill will puff up itself, they'll have a little purple, but that blue can mimic it just as easily. I prefer, black and blue over purple, especially if it's a darker blue over purple. I've seen where though it's more pink though. I can't think of the bait color right now off the top of my head. Morning Dawn, I think it is. It's really, really effective. And it's got like almost a purple sheen to it, but I prefer, especially in murky water, a dark black and blue finesse bait.
Okay. Next question. Do lizards eat bass eggs?
Not that I've ever seen. Most of your newts and stuff that are underwater, because our lizards they mimic lizards on top because some lizards do swim, but most of them are aquatic newts and salamanders. And they're more invertebrate bound. They'll eat small fish. They'll eat, insects, invertebrates, stuff like that, small crawfish. I don't really think they're a worry much on bass eggs, but using a soft plastic that mimics them is a great way because that bass is going to target anything that's going over its eggs that may feel as a threat. And it could feel they're a threat, so that's why they're an effective bait, especially during the spawn.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, cranking and yanking, he's from Louisiana, so he wants everybody to know it's crawfish, not crawdad, crawfish.
Look, cranking and yanking,
Mud bugs.
it's not sockeye either. It's a white crappie.
Okay, so yeah, there we go. Listen, we're gonna make fun of the guy from Louisiana tonight, like that. Okay, can you break down how and why a lake turns over and when to expect it to happen on our local lakes?
That's a very loaded question because I don't know where your local. I said, man, guys, I'm in central Mississippi, so I don't know when your lakes would turn over, or even where you are. But there's a thousand factors that influence a lake turnover. A lot of people, see it in the winter, especially when the water mixes and turnover. I've seen it in the fall. I've seen it in the spring, and I've seen it different times of the year, especially if we have severe flooding or rain that brings a bunch of fresh, cold water in or something like that. It'll flip a lake, and I've seen that all times of the year. So that's a big thing that has to do with environmental factors, not just it's going to happen every spring, every winter, every fall. I've seen it happen throughout all aspects of the year.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't think we ever think about a big cold rain coming in and just causing a lake to do that. So that's good. Do bass have memory, and if so, for how long?
They do have memory, and I'm going to say it's longer than we think. Mythbusters did a test. So you've always heard, goldfish have a 3-second memory. They proved that completely wrong by putting one through like a 20-minute obstacle course. Bass 100% have a memory because they have to remember, what to eat, what not to eat, how to hunt. They learn different, ambush ways. They learn what not to bite, what to bite. And that's, again, goes back to the bait question, why we have to innovate so many good baits, because they do learn just like anything else. So they do. I'm going to say, as far as fish intelligence goes, I'm not putting them up there, with, say, these snappers and stuff. It will cut your line off real quick, or, a tuna or something like that. But I'm going to say they're decently intelligent fish when it comes to something with the brain, smaller than my attention span.
Okay, that makes sense. Y'all good on y'all's questions? You want to keep rolling with the comments? All right, what? Say it. You got to tell it to me because they can't hear you on the mic. What is it?
So with the fish learning,
Uh-huh.
is that genetically passed? Because fish are only going to live a certain amount of time.
Okay.
If they're learning, why if they passed it down to the little fish? What's the deal?
Okay, so fish learning can it be genetically passed down given their short lifespan?
So I'm going to say yes, it could be genetically passed down because only, it's survival of the fittest. The fittest survive. And what something that means by the fittest is it means that it has the best ability to hunt, to survive, to avoid predators when they're young. So as these fish, the ones who haven't always bitten the bait, who didn't get taken out as a small fry, who've avoided all the predators. Because you remember, guys, I've seen flathead in their stomach have a 7-pound bass. You can pull up an 80-pound flathead and cut that open. They're going to have some big fish in there. So the smarter the fish is, the more likely it is to pass on its genetic material. So you could correlate that to fish intelligence. It's kind of up in the air. They're not teaching their young because they'll eat their young. Bass will turn cannibalistic real quick if they need, food sources taken out. So could it be genetics? Smarter fish pass on good genetics. So that's just kind of a correlation. It's like the opposite in people right now. I feel like that's the opposite in people right now. That's all I'm going to say about that.
He said, what kind of people?
It's the opposite of
Opposite of people? Okay, that's what I thought he said. Some studies say bass feel pain. Others say they don't even have a part of the brain to process or feel pain. What's true in your opinion? Which one? Do they feel it or do they not?
Yeah, they feel it. They feel pain. They have a nervous system, just like we do. Earlier studies, again, so the thing behind my field is knowledge changes over time, and that's one of the biggest things. We learn more as the years go on, especially on stuff like this, getting tested and working with different species, and bass in particular, because it's such a high sought after species of fish in America. It's a $1 billion industry. in my opinion, they do feel pain. Studies have shown they do feel a little bit of pain, but it may not be correlated to how we feel pain. It may, taking that hook in the lip, because, our earlobes, that may hurt if you pierce them, but it's not too bad. Our cheeks, it hurts if something goes in them. It's not too bad. It may be the same with the fish, whereas they do feel pain from the pressure and stuff like that, but it may not be an instant learning thing. But then again, as you hook them deeper in the gullet and the gills and stuff like that, of course they feel pain. They lose blood. It hurts. That's why they fight so hard. One, they think they're being attacked, and two, it's some form of pain to them. And that's why, again, they learn. I believe that's why they learn to avoid certain baits or see certain things over and over. It's like, that hurts. I'm not messing with that. Or that thing drugged me through the water. I'm not messing with that. So that's my opinion on it. People have different opinions. Studies evolve, and the way we learn and interpret information evolves as we go on. And in 20 years, we may realize that, oh, that hurt them a ton. But as of right now, I think it's more of a pressure than a pain. But I do believe overall they do feel pain, especially if you like fillet one or something when they're still not dead, which I believe is unethical. If you're going to fillet a fish, I probably believe in dispatching it. But
Yes.
that's my opinion.
No, I appreciate that. That sounds right too. You got one? Oh, you cleared your throat. I thought you were like, Danny.
So if a bass had a crawdad, a bluegill, and a shad in front of it, is there anything that says it would pick one first before anything else? Like, does it look at crawdads like, hey, that's steak, a lot of protein,
So
versus a shad?
yes, it does. Having those three, it will pick one over, but not for the reasons you were kind of stating.
Yep.
I see this a lot in pond management. People will say, well, I'm catching bluegill all the time. They're catching big hand-sized bluegill. A bass cannot eat a hand-sized bluegill without dying because there's a predator-prey relationship there. And those brim, the spikes on them, you always spike you. They'll lodge in spikes in a bass's throat real quick. That bass kind of knows that. Well, it sees the crawfish and sees there's pinchers on it. There's been studies done, especially on smallmouth, that crawfish with one pincher or no pinchers, or even just missing a few legs, are much more likely to be eaten because that bass knows that in some way that pincher could damage it, whether it be in the gullet, the gills, or something like that. Whereas a shad, I mean, they don't really have bony fins that bad. They don't have spikes, so they would probably go after the shad first just because it's an easier prey item.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Never thought about that. Brad Silvers, in a super clear water situation, what are the typical feeding patterns during a new moon versus a full moon while fishing at night?
Well, Brad, I don't really fish clear water except salt water much, but I do know that full moons fish, in my experience, even in murky water versus clear water, they will feed more at night and early morning and late afternoon. And that's why you see on full moons that midday bite is gone. Whereas opposed when there's no moon or something like that, midday bite's a good bit better. And that's just been my experience. And from what I've talked to other anglers, and like I said, guys, I do fish a lot of tournaments. So I try to take my knowledge and apply it in real time situations. I'm not just a desk jockey or a lab guy. So I believe that they do bite full moon because it gives more light for them to hunt with. So it makes it easier. Same reason Alex is throwing at spots under the lights around docks or stripers and killing it because it's more light for them those prey items stand out a lot better. Whereas opposed to normally at night, they're a lot more camouflaged.
Okay, that's good. Now, Alex, again, you're back there in the corner. So if you got a question, jump in here. Let me know. I want to give you all your opportunity there.
What about scent?
Oh, that's a good one. Because let me tell you this. Let me go ahead and put you my opinion out here. A lot of guys put scent on like fast moving reaction baits. Now I can kind of understand it on slower moving baits, but to me with a reaction bait, it's more visual or they feel the vibration. Does scents play a role in any of it at all, and especially on the hard baits? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, after we had Dylan on, it kind of got my gears turning about what he said.
Yeah.
About how he uses it to cover his scent.
To cover his scent. Yeah. So Dylan Fardo, that's what he said. He says,
yeah, I watched that episode. Yeah, I remember that episode.
Break it down.
So, and again, this is my opinion. I've done not just a ton of scientific research, just what I've seen and used. fish do have nostrils. It does lead. They do have olfactory senses. Some species of fish, such as catfish, who have a lot more barbels and olfactory sensories than say your bass, will use scent to hunt. I believe it works much better on a crawfish style bait than does a hard moving bait. But if you've ever, and saying that though, if you've ever seen a shad get busted, like a ball of shad get busted, you'll see an oil slick on top of the surface, and that's scent right there being put out. And that could easily trigger another feeding frenzy if that hits, a wolf pack of bass. So I want to say it probably wouldn't hurt for scent, but if you're throwing a shad scent in a lake that's primarily a crawfish and bluegill forage feed area, that's a waste of time. Or if you're throwing crawfish on and Lanier where you're fishing for spots and it's 300 foot deep, and they're probably not crawfish hunters because different bass will be specialized in hunting in different ways, even in the same lake. You'll have bluegill specialty bass, you'll have shad bass, you'll have crawfish bass. And that also correlates. People want to have trophy bass in their pond. They'll go and catch a 10-pounder, throw it in their pond. That fish will starve to death because it's not used to hunting in that pond. The same way, if you use a different scent that's not native or not used for species of bass or that type of bass that's specialized in that type of hunting, it may cover your scent. It may do a little bit of good there, but if you don't kind of match the hatch with it or match their specialty in the area you're fishing, it's probably null and void and you're wasting your money. But if you're able to synchronize that in, like get it niched in real well, then it's probably a little bit better for it.
That's actually really smart.
That's the best answer we've had.
That's what I was sitting here thinking, because a lot of guys will put certain things on, but not match the hatch, like he's saying. That's actually very good. I learned something with that. Makes a lot of sense. Bottom line outdoors. When adding a new source of bait to a body of water, can there be a negative effect on the fishery, as in shad or mud bugs or the sort?
Yes. Especially depending on how big of an area it is. If you throw a bunch of crawfish in an area that's not normally to have it, they could decimate native vegetation that the normal bait fish use as cover. You throw a bunch of shad in, thread fins are egg stealers, so you throw them in right at before the spawn or something like that to fatten them fish up, it could have a negative effect because they're going and eating all the bass eggs. So it's a double-sided sword to it in a lot of ways. One thing I never, ever recommend is if you're buying a bunch of bait, that's cool. If you're buying from a reputable dealer that like a fish stocker, that's great if they're reputable. Never go out to one body of water, catch a bunch, and bring them back to yours, because you could be adding, whether it be crawfish, parasites coming in, you could be adding all kind of diseases coming into your pond that wasn't there. And even though a bass and a bass, well, that one in the wild or the one you transport from one lake may be adept to fighting off this particular disease that it brings into this new body of water where those fish have never come in contact with that disease, and wipes out your entire thing. Same thing, you bring a bait fish that has a disease that those predatory fish may not be used to fighting off. It could absolutely devastate a population.
Again, another smart answer. Walleye channel on TikTok. Appreciate you joining us. I would say our local lake would be Lanier. That would be the closest one right there. And if you want to spill the juice on the 26 Classic, that being your home lake, join us tomorrow at 12 when we do the lunch break. And that way we can give you more one-on-one talk time. Right now I got Thad on here, and we want to keep on asking him these questions. But that would be a good thing tomorrow at 12 when we do our lunch break. That would be perfect. What is the typical lifespan of a bass?
That all depends whether you're looking at Florida or northern strain, F1s, tiger bass, shoal bass, smallmouth. It really depends because here in Mississippi, I've seen bass over 12 and 15 years old. I would probably say most bass, if you took an average age of every bass out there, I'm gonna say most would be under 6 years old. But you're going to have your bigger ones that grow exponentially faster or that live longer, have hardier genetics, are able to fight off diseases a lot better. And I'm going to say you probably find some 20-year-old bass out there.
That's a long time for a fish.
Yeah, it's a very long time.
Do they tend to have a longer life up north where the growing is slower?
I've never studied a bunch of northern strain. Most of my stuff is, in Mississippi, Alabama, some Arkansas, Tennessee, and Missouri. The colder water normally lends to longer lived species of fish. Not, but so and I saw walleye fish on here. People don't know it. Mississippi, I'm going to use this example because I've studied this species pretty in depth. In Mississippi, we have a species of walleye called the Gulf strain walleye. It is a federally endangered species. There's one place you can legally keep it in Mississippi. They stock it. They have it in a bunch of breeding lakes. And on the Tenton waterway, they have it. It's legally, you cannot keep it. But that strain of walleye, though it looks just like its northern cousin, will hit, a bigger body in 10 years, where that same fish of that size up north would take 20 years to get that big. So while they grow faster down here in the south because of our longer growing seasons and it's more adept to it with a lot of the shad and stuff like that, the ones up north, I would say, probably do have a longer lifespan.
Okay, that makes sense. Good question right there. All right, Darian Moss, pull him up right there. He wants to go ahead and get the party started. Is forward-facing sonar making fish harder to catch?
So I actually, the first, Darren, I'm going to go into a little bit on this, but the first episode of my podcast is actually the effects of front-facing sonar on fish populations. And it goes in somewhat depth on this. And I actually labeled a bunch of studies that's been done on it, but they all claim that more studies need to be done. I personally believe that front-facing sonar, if you use it now, it's becoming harder to catch fish with it than without it. Though the quality of fish you will catch will be higher with front-facing sonar. A study done on Lake Fork in Texas by their DNR showed that people using front-facing sonar are only catching 1 to 1.5 more fish per trip than people not using front-facing sonar. But the quality of fish was higher for those using front-facing sonar, so it allows you to target the larger fish. What I have seen more recently too, though, is if I just got front-facing sonar a few months ago, I probably have about 150 hours behind it, and I use it more for seeing if there's dead water. But what I have noticed on lakes that has heavy front-facing sonar use on it, if I train that sonar on that fish and cast at it, it's less likely to bite as if I put it on it, figure where it's at, and turn that front-facing off of it and then cast out there toward it. I have a higher success rate of catching it then. So I use it more to see what depth and where they are and then move it off of it. Because I have seen if I leave it on there for too long, that fish will actually swim away from it. And the reason I think it does that, I believe that between its lateral line and occipital bone and its ear bones, that it's feeling that vibration, it knows something is not right. Because I've had someone point it at me while I was in the water and my rod in the water too, at a separate point, and I could feel it myself. So if I can feel it, I know a fish can.
That's a very interesting statement. We were kind of talking on an earlier podcast about, or it might have been on a lunch break, about whether fish can hear or not. And you were talking about basically that it's a, what is it, an otolith? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, otolith. You said it correctly. And that's actually the best way. That's actually the best way to age. You can age a fish decently well by a scale, putting it under a microscope. But counting the rings on that ear bone is the easiest way and most accurate way to age a fish.
Okay. I saw in one of the comments a guy, of course, you had the people saying the fish can't hear, all this stuff. But when it comes to forward-facing sonar, a guy said they can't hear or feel it because it's subsonic or supersonic. It's too hard, too fast for them. And so basically what you're saying is that's not true. They can feel that forward-facing sonar ping on them.
I believe they can because I could somewhat feel it. And I remember that comment because he went into how their bodies are pretty much have the same composition as water. But I mean, ours are, could be 80% water depending on, how overweight you are. So if I can feel it, I have to imagine all the sensory things that fish have, they would have some way to detect it. Because, we've seen with nuclear submarines, whales, dolphins, and even fish react when that giant ping is going. Given that ping, close enough, it'll kill somebody, a human. It'll rupture your eardrums and your heart and stuff. But if we can feel it, they have to be able to feel it. That's my opinion from what I've seen and what I've experienced. I believe they feel it. Something. They may not feel it like a thump, but it's like a kind of like tinnitus, maybe.
Okay, that makes sense. Pull up Steve Billington fishing. Pull that up. All right.
They took a screenshot of me looking over at you,
Uh-huh.
but it looks like I'm looking at Andrew.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, because I was wondering what in the hell does that question mean? That's funny right there. Okay, so go to the next one. Next one. I there's a ton of comments, and so Phil Hutchinson right there. Pull that up. How much does the efficiency of motion come into play for bass?
Motion for bass, I think, especially in murky water. Phil, I don't know where you're at. Again, I'm in Mississippi. It's muddy in a lot of places.
He's here in
He's
Georgia.
here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he fishes a lot of current too.
Oh yeah, it definitely is going to make a big play in it. And the best way I can describe it is a swagger stick or a stick bait, something like that. It doesn't really look exactly like anything in the water, but it slightly looks, if it wobbles somewhat. Use my hand, like it wobbles a little bit. To a fish, it could be a wounded bait fish. It could be a salamander, a mud puppy, a tadpole, a small snake, a worm that's underwater. It could be a lot. It looks just enough like a lot of things that correct motion will trigger a bite. So I believe that motion very much, because when a prey item is flailing around or something like that, it almost triggers a predatory response.
Mhm.
And that's why when front facing sonar first came out, and you saw guys like, Dustin Connell and Wheeler and Mark Downs Jr. and those guys shaking that minnow or jerking it just right, or Milliken, the way he works in glide bait, he became so famous for catching big fish with those glide baits. Because the way those baits move in the water and they act, it almost triggers a predatory response. So movement has a great deal to play in it, I believe.
Okay. Good answer. Go on up. You keep on going right there. D Woods. First of all, D Woods, there are no dumb questions. So this is actually something we've actually talked about here in the shop before. Do bass ever sleep?
Yes. They sleep, but not like, it's almost like part of their brain gets turned off and causes rest. Because they're since they have swim bladders, so if they can stay kind of motionless for a while, their sixth sense is kind of still on, but it's not like they're snoozing like us, like they're dead to the world. They're kind of almost zoned out completely, but not, they're just enough in tune where if something big and predator kind of came at them, they have just enough time to maybe respond. But that's a very good question, man. There's no such thing as dumb questions.
That's kind of like a dog. Your dog does that. Looks like they're asleep, but you see their ear perk up and listen. So that makes sense. There are no dumb questions. Only the host right here. Brad Silvers. Will they go shallower in a new moon at night for visibility purposes?
I believe they hunt in the shallows a lot more because if I'm fishing, it's a new moon. I believe they'd come shallower just because if there's any light from like a street lamp or something like that, or the stars, clear sky, they use what they can. They're probably gonna come up shallower.
Okay. All right.
When I catch them at night, and they're shallow, it's usually close to deep water, or deeper water, like
Right.
15, 20 feet. So I try to find the shallow water docks and the lights shining down, or the dock lights that are adjacent to deep water.
Okay. That makes sense. Hey,
I
go
saw
ahead.
one on here, Coleman Jones. I've never collaborated with the University of Georgia on any projects. So for those of y'all that don't know, I'll kind of give this right now. I actually don't work in fisheries anymore or as a biologist, period, right now. I was a federal biologist, natural resource specialist with the USDA, and I was caught up in the furloughs. So right now I'm just kind of freelancing and fishing and making content. So yeah.
Okay, did I miss that question, or is he ahead of us in the comments?
He's ahead of
He's
us. in the
ahead of us. All
comments.
right, yeah.
Yeah, my stuff's automatically loading. Like I saw one from Georgia Bassmaster. Yeah, if you hook set them hard enough and send them to the stratosphere, they're not going to remember anything, man.
I got you. I got you.
We're pushing 20 minutes past.
Oh, we are. We're
Yeah.
that far behind. Well, we got all these questions right here. We got to get to Silver Punk. Are oil-based scents not effective because of how it repels water?
No, I don't believe that, because if they didn't repel water and they mixed in it completely, it would fade out horribly quickly. But you'll see oil slicks coming off baits like shad when they get smoked. You'll see an oil slick come up on it, and that's oil right there. It may not be synthetic oil, but it's still a type of oil. So I believe that the oil based probably work better than a water based. They'll hold better and they won't dilute as much in water. They may not spread as much as a water based and scent go further. They may be more potent and concentrated.
Okay, I didn't realize we were so far behind.
I think the scent absorption kind of relies on your bait more than anything.
Yeah,
If the
for
bait,
real.
holds
Yeah,
the scent,
100%.
then-
Okay, that makes sense. Pull up Steve Billington's comment because I got to question this right here. I covered myself in dough piss and it didn't do anything, but I haven't tried it with garlic for fishing. First of all, Steve Billington.
he'll still probably get skunked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, like, seriously, dude, that stuff stinks and I use it, but to cover yourself in that is a brave thing.
Oh, I had that spill out in my truck. I didn't realize
yeah.
it was like a hot summer day and like the bottle ruptured because it expanded so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to throw the whole truck away.
Yeah,
It is-
I've lost some tackle bags to some garlic.
Some
spills.
garlic scent.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
He's talking about dough piss. Yeah.
I'm a diehard hunter too.
Yeah.
Very much. I will hunt in the morning and fish in the afternoon in cold winter days.
Yeah. That's the best days out there when you can do that. I actually had a bottle of that and I ruined a brand new when that scent, no scent kind of apparel started coming out, and I had it in a backpack and the bottle opened up and you can't wash it out. I mean, it's there forever once you get to that point. It's terrible.
I just threw the floor mats away and bought new floor mats.
You have to. John Phillips, Headhunter LLC. How deep do bass have to be to not realize a boat is above them, or do they just not care?
That all depends on how conditioned they are to boats in an area. If you fish a lake that's never had a boat on it and that thing's causing some disturbance, all them fish are going to freak out. But if you're on a lake that has a lot of boat, they'll react differently to hearing a motor, whether it be that they don't care or they know that something's coming. Like it's almost like a predatory response, something's coming after them. Or some lakes I fish, like especially on my kayak, the shadow ball up around my kayak and the bass will flock to it. So it really all depends on how they're conditioned to the boat.
Okay. Good answer right there. Pull up old Georgia Bassmaster right there. Do you recommend the general consensus of taking out 20 pounds of bass per acre per year for trophy management?
100%. No doubt in my mind. 100%. And in fact, some bigger lakes, 200-300 acre lake, you could probably take out 30 pounds and it would not hurt that lake and make it a lot better. And so the stats, remember guys, I don't know where you are in the country. I know Georgia Bassmasters in Georgia, and Georgia fishes a lot like Mississippi in some aspects. Maybe not the mountain reservoirs, but the lower lakes will. In Mississippi, it takes 10 pounds of bait fish per pound of bass in order to make that 1 pound go to 2. So if you have a 7-pound bass, you need in between 75 and 80 pounds of forage fish per year for that bass to consume. That's why you see a lot of places that people don't harvest bass. You see a lot of stunted growth or something like that, or you'll see after a giant fish kill, the fishing becomes better and bigger fish. It's because people don't take bass out anymore. And until people start following the creel limit, and that thing is there for a reason. It's not to not keep that many, it's to keep exactly that many. And my personal belief in a public body of water, until we start following the creel limits more and taking bass out of these fisheries, we will never see another world record taken off a public lake. But very much so, you need to take out 20 pounds of bass per year, or else your forage fish will never reproduce fast enough in order to have good growth. And I also do a podcast on that. I can rant on that all day because pond management like that is one of my specialties.
Yeah.
But you 100%. If I'm not in a tournament and I can keep it, I'll keep a bunch of 10 to 14 inch bass all day long, give them some on the bank, or take them home and make black and fish tacos.
I love it. I love it. That's we talk about that a lot. Now we don't have your expertise as far as the numbers and all that, but people don't keep fish anymore.
No.
And they don't realize that, like, we got a lake over here, Hickory Log, that you got to go through 5 million 12-inch fish to get a truly decent sized bass, but nobody keeps them. It needs some bass taken out for sure. Oh, he's reading.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, look at he's reading. Like he's ahead of the comments. He's like, these guys are slow. These guys are slow as hell. He's already.
Well, no, it's cool.
Back.
Someone actually just DM'd me on here asking for a link to my podcast.
Yeah, it's Anthony Hampton. Anthony Hampton, would you quit DMing him and I'll get to your question? You're messing up my show, Anthony Hampton. I'm gonna call you out, dude. I'm just kidding.
So we've got to take fish out, and you'll see it. People all day long was like, "Well, I'm catching brim out of my pond left and right." I was like, "Yeah, but they're hand-sized brim. That 5-pound bass ain't gonna eat a hand-sized brim. It'll kill it."
Yeah.
They can eat a 9-inch shad because of the way the shad's structured. They can't eat a 6 to 7-inch bluegill or reddy or something like that. They're wiping out the small ones so they ever get big enough, and therefore they don't have enough forage.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, question? Go ahead.
Yeah. What's the best crappie lake in Mississippi? Because I've seen people do videos like 2-3 pound crappie and some crazy catches.
Dude, if you're only catching 2 and 3 pound crappie in Mississippi and you're on a good lake or with a good guide, you're doing it wrong. At one point, we had 9 of the top 10 crappie lakes in the world. The Corps of Engineers, and I probably get slapped on this and probably won't ever get a job in the federal system after saying this, but the Corps of Engineers, all our giant crappie lake are mainly core lakes, and they fluctuate them so much lately, especially after Katrina, to prevent flooding of the delta in our farmland, that it messes them up horribly. That front-facing sonar, unlike bass, they have done a number on crappie because they are a harvestable species. People throw bass back left and right, so front-facing doesn't really detract from the population, but crappie, it does. But Enid, Grenada, Arca Butler may come back. The dam just ruptured on it. It's completely gone. Sardis, Ross Barnett, Moon Lake, places like that. It's not uncommon to catch a 3 to 4 pound crappie. I've seen crappie tournaments out there where every bag had a 4-pounder in it.
You start talking 4-pound. Now listen, it's crappy. I know you're from Mississippi and all that, and you guys all say it wrong once you get outside of Georgia. It's crappy. We've had this discussion before. I'm just kidding, but that's a serious fish.
Mm-hmm.
That's big right there. Got a question from the gallery here. Are tournaments hurting lakes?
Yes and no. I believe tournaments are teaching fish what not to bite, and people think it's harder. We had a lake here in Mississippi called Lamar Bruce. It was, the big bass producer in North Mississippi. Multiple 13, 14-pound bass were caught out of this 350-acre lake every year. And then it started having 2 and 3 tournaments on it a year. And whether people are not taking proper care of the big breeding stock and releasing them back, or they just become smarter, because not a front-facing sonar, but like watching 5 and 6 pounders swim on the bank all day long and not bite anything I've thrown at them, I think it's making them smarter. And I think the catch and release aspect of it is killing a lot of the big ones. And I try to take good care of the big fish, because you can put all the, G-gel and aqua lung you want in there, but that fish hits your deck in a tournament and that slime coat comes off, it may not die in a week, but it makes it super susceptible to fungal infections and bacterial infections and stuff like that. And that bass will probably die in the next month or so, unless it's something, drastic saves it. I have seen some survive it. It's a 50-50, but if that bass hits your deck or you grab it with dry hands or something like that, you've pretty much sentenced that fish to a slow, painful death.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah.
Put the camera
Thank
on
you.
Put the camera on you.
Thank you.
Put the camera on you. Now, why are you so happy with that answer back there?
Because of some stuff that was said on the lunch break today.
On the lunch break today. And
Yep.
what were we arguing about on the lunch break today?
I was talking about slime coat.
You were?
And boat flipping fish.
And boat flipping fish.
And there was some tournament guys in there that said they boat flip every fish and they all survive. And they might survive till weigh in, but what happens 2, 3, 4 weeks from then?
Yeah, and even on the kayak side, we pride ourselves on the CPR event, MLF CPR event. And I almost wonder if the reason if they boat flip a fish, they get that 2-minute penalty because they kind of know that fish, is going to die or has a possibility of dying. But even the kayak guys who brag, we beat our chest, CPR, we're taking care of fish. If you don't wet that board in your hands,
I wet the board.
I know.
yeah, but I know you do. But if you don't wet the board
or
or your hands before you touch that fish, you might as well throw it in a live well or take it home and fillet it.
Yeah, I was just doing it because that's what we did. You were there. You were there on the lunch break today, right, Thad, for a while?
For just a minute. I didn't see that part, the slime coat part of it, or I would have tuned in more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see that part.
We went at it. All them dadgum superior kayak guys are like, catch, release, and all that. I'm like, well, and I'm just teasing them because I love them. But, they got to wet the fish, wet the boards, make sure the boards aren't hot, 150 degrees before you put them,
100%.
Like that. And I was just teasing Alex and all that because I know most of the guys like John and Alex, they do that. But a lot of guys fail to do that.
Yeah.
As well. And it does the exact same thing that you're talking about.
No, and I see it judging tournaments lately too. You'll see the board that has never left the deck of the kayak and it's got grime and dirt all over it. You know that thing ain't been wet unless a fish has touched it.
I've seen some studies that at the weigh-in they tag every fish released, and some, I think like the average 5-fish weigh-in tournament had like a 40 to 45%, fatality rate in the long run. And your average CPR, they did it too on like a CPR event, like a kayak event. I think it still had like a 25 to 30% fatality rate, which is a double-edged sword because people aren't keeping bass. So dead fish takes out poundage, but you don't want to take out your big breeders either.
Right.
So what's the effect of like guys having sunscreen on their hands and then touching fish? Does that burn that slime coat?
Again, there's so many different sunscreens out there. I try to wash my hands with it. If your hands are super wet, I think it's fine. I wouldn't take a dry hand with sunscreen on it and touch a bass because that probably is not the best for them, just from the chemical aspect of it.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Anthony said, going down to the comments, Anthony said, it was not me. I did not DM him. But we saw Anthony asking for it. So whoever else DM'd him during my show, it's on you. All right, Anthony, I'm sorry. I got to apologize. When I'm wrong, I'm going to say I'm sorry. But go ahead and go all the way down again because there's so many comments. If we missed your question, type it again. Eventually, we'll get to it. Let's see right there. Go to Phil Hutchinson right there. What bait will cause the most growth in a fish, or is it dependent on what forage is available?
It depends on what forage is available and what those fish are specialized in. The best person I know, and y'all had him on here before, is the aquatic biologist Sean O'Gurn, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Shan O'Gorman.
Yes, him. He does fantastic videos on it. I talked to him a good bit, but the forage fish you put in there, you have to make sure that it's going to live. You dump $10,000 of threadfin shad in a 10-acre lake, they'll probably never spawn. So that's a one-time forage fish. Whereas you put a ton of bluegill that spawn 4 and 5 times a year and produce a bunch of smaller, edible sized fish for those bass to grow on, it's probably going to be more beneficial in the long run. Now, if you want big fish quickly to fatten them up the first year, toss a bunch of bull minnows in there, toss a bunch of threadfin in there. They'll never reproduce normally, but it fattens them up very well. If you want to have the healthiest, small lake pond ecosystem, bass stock brim in the fall, bass in the spring. And when you stock brim, for every 1 acre you have in there, throw at least probably 25 to 50 red ear sunfish in there, shell crackers, because they eat snails. And snails, if you have snails in your lake, they produce what's known as a white grub. And white grub will attack bass in their gills and in their meat and cause them to die off. And the shell crackers prevent that. So to have a balanced ecosystem, if you want to grow big fish in the long run in a trophy lake, bluegill, shell cracker, toss some minnows in there to start off with, stock all that in the fall. In the spring, toss your bass in there.
Okay, I didn't know. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody talk about, and we talk about the gill maggots and stuff on Lanier with stripers and all that. We've never talked about like a, something like that with bass. Now, shell cracker are good, but shell cracker are fun to catch, and they taste good too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'd give me a tube of crickets and a pencil float and some big bluegill and shell cracker, and this boy's having fun all day long.
I will tell you, I have fished, saltwater, spear fishing, scuba diving, caught rod and reel saltwater, bass fish, fished all kinds of stuff all over the world, all over the country. A bobber and crickets are by far my favorite way to fish, period.
100%. We are just separated brothers at birth right there, because I don't know why anybody wouldn't enjoy that. Brad Silvers, what's the mortality rate for fish brought into a weigh-in at a tournament? Should that number be included in the krill weight?
Again, a lot of the studies that I've seen, and I've looked at probably a dozen different studies, have fish brought in on a 5-fish weigh-in to be in between. Most of them say, if you combine them all, in between 30 and I think 55, may have been on the higher end of the ones I've seen, 30 to 55% mortality rate. But that's not a guarantee. So if you bring in 5 fish and you have a 20-pound bag, should that be included in the 20 pounds that you need to take out of that lake? Probably not, because even on the high end, it's only a 50 to 55% mortality rate. So at best, it'd only be 10 pounds of fish at that size. So that's, you kind of got to look at it that way.
I'm trying to do math in my head, but it ain't working enough.
Does the mortality rate change through different seasons in the year, spring, summer, fall?
Yeah, during the summer, it's going to be a lot higher mortality rate. And it's not so much because of the hot water, that's part of it, but it's because of people taking fish. Because I was fishing today, water temperature was like 94. People are taking fish out of a 94-degree lake and put them in a live well full of ice at 60 and 70 degrees and throw those bass into shock. You need to slowly add ice to maybe have it 3 or 4 degrees, maybe 5 or 6 at the most, below the actual lake water temperature. If you throw a bunch of fish in there, throw ice in there and throw that fish into shock, well, that throws his whole immune system and everything off, and it might die in your live well and wait away in.
Is that the same thing with oxygen, where you see in some of these oxygen systems? Can you put too much oxygen in the water?
I don't know about too much oxygen in the water. I haven't really looked at that, because the fish lung, they say, is having a pretty high success rate. But one thing people don't take into account a lot of the time, as far as weighing fish, you know how you'll pull a bass out and you'll see it like red in the fins and stuff?
Yep.
So that's caused by having too much ammonia. Because fish are, having way too much ammonia in that live well. So that's called that, and that's one environmental factor. There's a ton of environmental factors you have to look at in that live well. Is the dissolved oxygen being absorbed? Well, a lot of it's, when it bubbles up, pops going straight into the or out of the system. So having more pumps in there is better, in my opinion. Throwing it in a super cold thing is not good. Not putting fresh water in there and removing the ammonia is not good. So there's all kind of different factors you have to look at when it comes to weighing in fish and what's in your live well and how it affects stuff.
Okay. With that, what do you think about Mountain Dew to stop bleeding? Because that is something that a lot of guys around here, if they got a bleeding fish, they're going to pour that Mountain Dew on it, and they believe it works.
If you pour cold water on it, it's going to work too, because most of the Mountain Dews are cold, and what it's doing is closing off the vascular system and shrinking them blood vessels where it helps stop the bleeding. There's a study, a few guys tried it, and it didn't have any more effect on it than pouring really cold water on it.
That makes sense. But everybody thinks it's something in the Mountain Dew. Probably some of them chemicals they put in there. But that makes sense, cold water and all that. Let's see. Go to D Woods. And if we missed you, type it again. Can bass digest a hook if we cut it off when they're gut hooked? What is the truth with that?
I don't know about digesting it. So first off, guys, I carry like 9-inch curved hemostats to remove gut hooks, and if they're real bad where I can just see a point, I'll actually push it through, cut my line, and pull the hook all the way out. And they bleed some, but they have a decent recovery from that. I do know saltwater, not so much. It used to be where if you cut the hook off and it was in a shark or something, it'd rust out. Saltwater, it's not really doing that anymore from the hooks the stuff the material's made out of now. But a lot of your freshwater hooks will rust through and almost dissolve and break down eventually. Whether a bass can digest it all the way through and whole, it really depends on the size of the fish, what else is in its stomach, stuff like that. But a lot of times, if it's hooked really well and it stays somewhat in the gullet there where you can see it, it may rust all the way through eventually and break apart. But it still runs the risk of slightly rupturing the internals. But bass digestive system are built a little bit different. They have probably a little bit higher acidity rate, especially when they have to digest scale and fin spikes and stuff like that. So they're a little more adept to it, a little more elastic. So leaving one in there is not the worst thing you can do. But I do recommend getting some long curved forceps, watching a few videos on how to probably get them ungut hooked.
Okay. What do you think about fizzing fish? And if you do fizz fish, do you go through the side or the mouth?
So I don't fish anywhere deep enough to have to fizz a fish.
I forgot he's from Mississippi.
And
I forget that.
Even when I fish in a Lake of the Ozarks, for like big tournaments, stuff like that, I don't really pull them out from deep enough to have to worry about. Even deep cranking 15 feet at most, and I've never had one just not go back down on its own. I believe the method they have come up with is effective through the side. Now, if that swim bladder, if you can see it all coming out of the mouth like you see on these fish you pull up from the deep ocean,
yeah,
you have to go like that. And a lot of them, that's why they have the weight release thing. As soon as it comes up, you hook that heavy weight, drop them back down, and it shrinks back down because air pressure collapses in on it again. And I have to worry about that when I'm spearfishing too. But I think it's somewhat effective. But if you still want to have that fish to have a high successful survival rate, don't do it on carpet. Do it on a wet surface. Like there's one guy I watched. He carries a large cutting board with him. He wets down really well because it won't remove the slime coat nearly as bad on that smooth wet surface as it would laying it down on your boat deck or something like that. So I do believe the method they've come up with, especially for smallmouth on fizzing on the side, is decently effective as long as you don't remove too much of the slime coat.
You got something, or can I go ahead and jump on cranking and yanking there?
I got two, but you can jump.
Okay, let me pull up cranking and yanking's first one. He is always the guy, like he is like our devil's advocate on everything. I don't know that he agrees with anything we talk about here in North Georgia. And you got to realize too, Thad, this is a Louisiana guy. All right, people have been flipping netting, handling fish for hundreds of years. I don't buy that it hurts that fish. I need to see some proof of that. And then his second comment down there says, and it's okay to fizz a fish because you pulled it out of 80 feet of water, but don't you flip it in the boat. Come on. Now educate his grumpy butt.
All right,
and I love you cranking and yanking. I love you, dude.
And he does great comments too. I'll give him that.
He does.
So cranking and yanking, I challenge you for this. They have boat flipped fish for hundreds of years. They have netted them for hundreds of years. And for a long time, we had great big fisheries, especially, that threw them back. But now people are taking better care of them, and we see a higher survival rate. And people complain about not catching as quality of fish because we have a higher survival rate. Fish are overstocked. When you flip them up and it removes that slime coat, just like if I took all the white blood cells out, like if you're going through chemo or something, you become much more susceptible to all kinds of viral infections, HIV, stuff like that. Same thing happens with the fish slime coat. That slime coat's removed. It's a protective barrier. It's like peeling off the first layer of your skin. It lets them become more susceptible to fungus. If you go to my TikTok, there's a zombie bass I put on there. It has a giant bug-eyed, and Alex can probably find it and show it to y'all. It's got a giant bug eye on it, 2 of them. It has a severe bacterial eye infection, equivalent to pink eye in us. These fish are completely blinded, and it has nasty scars all over it where you can see fungal infection starting to take place. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of studies out there that show this and pictures that show this. Crank and yanking, I challenge you to put in the effort to go out and read those studies. Then you can determine the validity of these studies and how these affect the actual fish. So before, you bring about the hundreds of years, we've learned throughout the years that stuff change. Read the studies, read the science behind it, then determine if you want proof, the proof is there in the studies.
Okay. And Atlanta Safe House, how you doing, buddy, on TikTok? Now listen, I don't do TikTok. I wear pants, not a skirt.
It's on my Instagram and my YouTube as well.
Well, the thing, YouTube is probably all he does, if we're being honest with you, because it's the simplest one. And for those Louisiana boys, they need
They
simple.
gotta keep it simple.
And Steve Billington goes, did you mention he's a Louisiana guy because they are like special or something? No, listen, I'm just playing with him because he's a great viewer and I appreciate him. Now you go ahead. You had a couple questions.
The best type of net to use for fish care? Like the netting, what should it be made out of? And then the second one would be, I've heard in recent podcasts that it's better to use a white weigh-in bag, especially if you're walking a long distance, than a black one, because that black one's generating heat and warming up that water that's only like a gallon or so. So it'd be net and best weigh-in bag for the fish.
Hold on a second, Thad. Hold on a second. Are you cheating on me?
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about that on this podcast.
Hey,
Are you cheating on me, Ken?
I'm researching and doing additional resources.
Additional resources.
So-
All right, go ahead, Thad.
I believe the best net material is going to be, that plastic stuff, the polymer coated stuff.
Yep.
I think the older nets cut into it a little bit more, whereas, of course, I did switch to the polymer ones. I believe the older nets, from seeing stuff and watching how much slime is in them versus the polymer ones that are wetted, I think that they provide better fish care. I do agree with the clear white bags because it does reflect heat off, especially in the hot summer. If it's, a heat index of 118 and you're walking to weigh in, you're having to stay there for a minute, they don't have a good cooling tank or something like that.
Right.
That bag could definitely cause that. It could cause that. And I'm going to show y'all cranking and yanking. This is what I mean. You see the bug eyes on that and them white spots?
Yeah,
That's all bacterial and fungal infections. So that fish was probably boat flipped and contracted that. Now it still hit that glide bait in 3 foot of water. It swung at it 3 times. I sight fished it and finally hit it, but it could not detect it. It's just going straight off that lateral line and the osseous bone feeling vibration.
That's crazy. That is an ugly ass fish.
Oh yeah.
For being
big,
honest,
though.
I mean that is.
I've had
I don't know how I'd want to catch that fish.
I've had multiple people tell me that fish is giving them nightmares.
I mean, it would me too. I'll tell you about it tomorrow after I think about it. Let's see. How much does geology play a role in fish growth?
How much is what?
Geology.
Geology? A lot. So geology is a wide aspect. It could, rock bottoms versus mud bottoms, whether the plants have whether the system has more of the ability to produce cover, such as a lot of vegetation. Well, vegetation and muddy bottoms, a lot of times you'll have a lot more algae, which algae can be a two-sided sword. If they have a die-off, you'll have like a red tide, and cyanobacteria will suck out the oxygen. But having a muddy bottom can also mean that you have a better algae. Normally, you have a better algae system. Therefore, you'll have more food for the smaller fish, the zooplankton and stuff to feed off of. Smaller fish feed off them, and it creates a better ecosystem. Some of your clear water, hard rock bottom lakes, you'll see where those lakes they don't have nearly as much vegetation growth in them, and they may not have as much forage in them. I believe geology of a lake plays a huge part in it, but it also has to do with whether you're up north or south. Clear water here would heat up, I believe, a little bit quicker than it would up north because it's colder water. That's a hard question to answer just off the top of my head, but it does play a great role in it.
Okay. Yeah. So like Phil does those kind of questions like that. You got one? Oh, you were looking at me like, okay. Pull up C219 Troll. I love your guys' names right here. On Clarks Hill, we've seen a tremendous spot population. Should bass fishermen start keeping them now? They are taking over my crappie piles. Also, FYI, they taste awesome. And I would tell you this.
Kill them all.
Yeah. Now, you don't like them. Yeah. John hates spots. He's a largemouth guy. Yeah.
Right.
I know how you feel. They make a mean taco.
Yeah, I think spots are probably the best bass to eat.
Oh, by far superior over largemouth.
Oh yeah.
But what do you think about that?
I think that you should definitely keep the krill limit and do your part to maintain a properly balanced ecosystem and make some blackened fish tacos because they're delicious.
Randy Blockett's not going to like that answer.
Well, that's okay because me and Randy Blockett don't always agree on anything.
And I hate to bring him up, but he'll do a video. People shouldn't be keeping fish because they are killing it for the next generation. I mean, he does say things like that.
They are making it better. And I've commented on his videos. They are making it better for the next generation. Don't over harvest, but under harvesting can do just as much damage.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, now pull up cranking and yanking again. He ain't going to let this go.
Oh, I know he's not. I saw it.
He's not. Yeah. What tells you that is from being flipped? I have a pond in my backyard, flip net, grab, toss all day, every day. I never see fish floating out there. Sorry, I am skeptical.
Well, cranky yanking, there's turtles and raccoons and birds and all kind of stuff to eat out there. I know you're from, Louisiana. I got all love for Louisiana. I love going fishing in Louisiana. I do. I've got some good friends down there and in that state. But just because you don't see it, don't mean there's not an effect to it. I can't see the flu virus, but I still get sick.
Yeah, I guess so. That's. I didn't have flu virus on my bingo card for tonight's show, but he brought it out, so I get that. Paul B wants you to know, John, come to Norman, come catch some of them spots out right there. Tell everybody why you hate spots, John. Tell everybody why you hate spotted bass.
Where can you catch smallmouth in Georgia now? And where could you use to?
That's right. Yeah, Blue Ridge.
Hey, spots can breed. Spots are like a mallard duck. They can hybridize with like every species of black bass out there, and they will eventually, the spotted genes will overtake it, and they'll go from more smiley to mean mouth to being like almost a pure spot again. They are ravenous freshwater piranhas that can breed. They're the God, I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this. They're the Alabama of the bass world. They will breed with anything.
Cousins, sisters, uncle. Yeah, I get what you say. He goes, let's agree to disagree on that cranking yanking. But they are. And so he mentioned smallmouth. We used to have a lake up here, Blue Ridge, that was largemouth and smallmouth. And it was Georgia's real true smallmouth fishery. Spotted bass got put in there, and they have really absolutely decimated.
Yeah, spotted bass, they breed quickly. They are voracious. They will outcompete most other species just because how fast they eat, how voracious they are, how much they move around. They're not like a smallmouth or a largemouth that will stay in one spot. They are travelers.
Spots kill for sport too.
Yeah.
Like I've seen them kill stuff and just leave it there.
I had a friend. He caught a spot here on the 10 tom on the whole bass was maybe 10 inches, 9 inches, but it hit a 6-inch shad on the 10 tom here. And I want you to see, y'all might can see it.
The teeth.
The teeth on that thing. Well, it's not doing good on my camera, but the teeth on that thing, it doesn't have a tongue, but it ripped his thumb to pieces.
I'm glad you said that because there was a question up earlier about the tooth patch on a spot. Why they have it and why like a largemouth doesn't. What is the purpose of that?
Just to hold, from my understanding, just to hold on to prey better.
Okay, I mean, that's a simple, but I do remember seeing that. Now, Coleman Jones, pull up Coleman. I'm going to get him in trouble right here because I know Coleman's fiance. Spots are like these women nowadays, which are like pit bulls. All they do is fight and breed.
That's not true. I got 2 pit bulls, and all they do is sleep and snuggle.
Is that what it is? Well, but here's the thing. Coleman is all of what? Early 20s? I mean, he's not an old guy. But listen to that, like he's been like these women nowadays. Like he's been around for a while.
Look, I'm a former frat boy and everything, and Coleman, I have a feeling you're gonna be sleeping on the couch a lot in the future, man.
That's it. Yeah, he's got to think about that. But anyway, and I appreciate that comment. Messick Outdoors. Do you believe spotted bass are harder to kill compared to a largemouth? A largemouth in the live well always seems to be more fragile. And let me read this one real quick from TikTok because I missed a lot of the comments. Spots are essential in central and lower Alabama. Gotta have them. That's what G Square 19 said. What do you think about Messick's comment?
I think that spotted bass, they're in my opinion, definitely a hardier fish. No doubt in my mind, they are a much hardier fish. I don't know if that comes from just the sheer way they can outcompete, the way the genetics of them breeding with them other bass and taking the best genetics back to the spotted bass realm, or what. But they are a hardy fish because that picture I sent of that one that hit that giant shad, that small spotted bass, gigantic teeth, no tongue. Like the tongue has completely been ripped out of that fish, no tongue whatsoever, and it is still running and gunning. They are a hardy fish.
They're just pissed off fish too.
They are, man.
They really are. That's the way we describe it. And you're right when you're talking about, and we've noticed this talking about Alex just for sport and all that.
Yeah.
But we've also noticed up here, like during bedding, a largemouth will guard its bed. But if a spot is on the bed, you can throw 20 feet to the side and it will just go hit it for the hell of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're vicious. They're freshwater piranha, or
Yeah,
they're
they are.
American piranha. Piranhas
Yeah,
are
it makes
freshwater.
Brad Silvers, if all these tactics of catching fish raise the mortality rate and 25 to 50% of these bass don't make it, are we helping the fishing?
It really depends. You're helping it by taking out a predatory fish that would eat normal forage. You may be hurting it by taking out the mature breeding stock with better genetics. Because if a fish hits 8 to 9 pounds, it more likely has better genetics, has a higher fitness level than one that is stunted at 2 pounds. So if you kill an 8-pound bass, yes, you're taking that one fish alone will take 8 of that 20-pound quota out of that lake. But you also have to look at the decimation of that's an older fish that has high fitness, has high survival rate, has high breed rate more than likely. It's made it for that long, so it's passing on good genetics when it does breed. So those are the ones you want to keep. So while it's both hurting and helping that population, depending on what size of fish are dying off in those mortality studies.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Steve Billington, spotted bass are like my ex, angry and hard to kill.
Oh, God.
But there are a few guys around here that can attest to that. I will say that. Trout and bluebacks, do they have more protein, hence bigger fish in blueback lakes?
I think that the reason that the fish get a little bit bigger in those blueback, that's hard to say, blueback lakes is because of the sheer amount of eggs and forage in those. If you got a herring lake like that, you're not going to have, like if you have a bluegill lake, you're going to have a bunch of bluegill, but it's not going to be anything like a shad or herring lake where you just got giant schools of bait fish out there.
Right.
So while they are high in protein, don't get me wrong, they're high in protein and nutrients like that, but there's the sheer abundance and numbers of them compared to your bluegill or crawfish primary feeding lakes is a whole other story.
Yeah, that makes sense. Darian Moss, and I want to know this question too. Mr. Biologist, does the moon phase affect whitetail movement?
Every study that I've read, minus one, and I'm talking I've read dozens and dozens and dozens of study from tagged radio collared deer, is that a moon phase does not affect white-tailed deer as much as people want to say it does. And people will say, well, this and that. But according to the ones that are collared, where they GPS track them in real time, moon phases do not affect the movement of deer. If anything, the reason that if they move more is because predators like coyotes or black bears or wolves, bobcats can see better in full moon phases, cause them to push them more. But them themselves that are in a low predatory area do not move much more on a full moon as opposed to your waning or waxing.
You know what? That's interesting you say that, because conventional wisdom is it affects it. And so I'm glad you said that. And you talking about actually reading studies on collared deer, because didn't we talk about that on the lunch break today too? Yeah, just how about the moon phase as far as affecting bass? Like as far as like feeding more.
Full moons, they'll feed more at night, early morning, and late in the afternoon. That's why you're about 9. If you have a full moon, if I'm fishing on a Thursday and Wednesday night, early Thursday morning is a full moon, that bite will normally shut off for me around 8 or 9 o'clock because they fed so much during the night because they had such more light to hunt with, and it'll pick back up around 1 or 2 o'clock. So I've seen it where it does affect in fishing because they use the light to feed, just like the coyotes would use it to hunt the deer and push them. They're the predators in this aspect as opposed to the prey. Okay,
that's interesting. Steve Pinkston, what's up? If you guys don't know, you need to get some of Steve's nuts. I'm just telling you, everybody out there, if you're in the Bass Pro Shop out there in Lawrenceville, get some of his nuts when you leave. They're absolutely fantastic. Do we really know how many fish are in these lakes? we may not be making a dent in the actual populations. I could be wrong. And on top of that, these big, huge lakes like Lanier and bigger, how do they actually really go about figuring out just what the population is to set these limits?
I actually know the answer to this because I took a class on this specific thing in college. It's called analytical biometrics. And what it does is when let's say I go and shock, let's say Lanier. I shock up, this specific footage in this area, and then this area, and then this area, and then this area, and this area. I take a mean of those areas. So if I shock, in the middle of the lake, which is deep, and then, get 3 bass, and I shock up there on these boat docks in the back of a cove and get 200 bass in this area, I take the mean of them two and every, the other 100 places I shot. You compile that data, and it gives you a best guess estimate of number of fish per acre in this particular lake. It's not an exact science, but it's a somewhat science. There's no way to tell that it's, there's exactly, 15 million crappie in Ross Bar net, but you can get an educated guess depending on the means of the census that you take.
Okay, that's good. Pull up Anthony Hampton, because I think this is actually true. Moon phase affects humans, especially on a full moon weekend. Ask any first responder in the field. And I've heard cops like Tim, and I've heard them say that. Now, I don't know if it's just in our head, but there's something about a full moon and human beings and getting in trouble. I think that's more along the line. Let's see. Steve Billington Fishing. When you cannot figure out a bite at all and want to prevent getting skunked, where should you look for bass that is universal, and what should you throw?
Depending on the time of the year, if it is late winter, early spring, I will find a rock bank because I know that those rocks will hold heat, warm up quicker, and warm the water up, getting the bait fish moving, causing the fish to move. And I will throw a small underspin and catch fish there, or a square bill crankbait. If it's the summer and I just know I need to catch something, and it's the dog days, I will find timber. Normally a big log that's coming off that creates a big shadow where you got like 2 foot in between the water and the bottom of the log that goes into it. I'll skip a wacky worm up under there and let it sit and twitch it a little bit. That normally works for me if I'm trying to prevent a skunk. If it's late fall, I will normally hit the docks up, steal the shade and stuff, because here in Mississippi, I'm seeing we're still 9 degrees in the fall. And if it's dead of winter, I will normally try to find some rocks or some timber that's holding heat, and I will fish, I'll slow crank around those.
Okay.
Do you have floating docks in Mississippi, or are they?
Yes, we do have floating. A lot of your docks are floating docks. They'll have, your standard poles going down. If I can find a floating dock that's got the black things up under it, the black tunes up under it,
Yep.
100%, I will skip a wacky worm right to them because those hold heat and attract both bait and prey fish.
Yep. So it's like a universal thing.
Yeah.
Works here on Lanier, works in Mississippi, probably works in California. There's something about those black floats under those docks.
It holds heat.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Walleye channel. Is it true that alewives make walleye sterile?
Not that I've ever heard, but I've never studied that aspect of it.
Okay. Well, I get it, but I have heard that kind of guys around the shop have said that before. And I don't know if it's an old wives' tale or what, but I have heard that.
So the best way I know to approach that would be the same way with mercury buildup in tuna. Walleye are definitely a predatory fish, and they get big and they hold these heavy metals in them. That's why you're only supposed to eat so much tuna or salmon in Mississippi, and catfish a lot of places in wild rivers, because mercury is a naturally occurring thing here too. It comes out of the water. You're only supposed to eat so much, and I can see where if they eat a ton of LY, it could cause some sterilization in them, because if one LY has 1 gram of mercury in it, it may not affect that LY. But if that walleye eats 200 LY and gets 200 grams of mercury in it, which is a very slow release heavy metal, especially it goes to the brain of the fish and other reproductive organs, because humans can get sterilized with too much mercury in them, and they eat so much of that LY, it causes sterilization through mercury poisoning. I could definitely see that happening, because for mercury to get out of the system takes a long time. That's why you don't eat too much tuna or salmon or sharks, and that's more the urea. But a lot of your big fish like that, the bigger the fish, the higher concentration of heavy metals they are because they eat all the small fish, and that builds up in it. It passes when you eat it; it goes into your system.
I sit there and I was looking over at Ken. I'm like, man, he's so smart. He's just smart, dude. That's a great answer. John Phillips wants to know, shocking the fish like the DNR do around here, does it hurt the fish? I mean, they float for a bit.
No, it doesn't hurt the fish. As someone, by saying this, I went through basic training for security forces in the Air Force before I got hurt. I've been tased. It locks up a muscle, same way it locks up a fish like that, and they just kind of float because they're locked and they go to the surface because their swim bladder inflates. You got a few seconds to dip them up. If you don't scoop them up in those first few seconds, they gone.
Okay. All right. Any of you guys got any questions before I continue on? John,
No, I'm good.
you're good? You listening?
Yes, sir.
All right. What seasoning do you use for blackened fish tacos? Do you have a preferred brand?
Quite honestly, just the off-brand at Kroger is what we use a lot of, or the off-brand at Walmart. I find the cheaper the seasoning, a lot of times with blackening, the better it is.
And why is that?
It just tastes better to me. Just like, so I do all my own processing with fish, with deer, wild pigs. I do all my own processing. I make a ton of jerky, and a lot of the guys who are on here, the tactical fishing team, they've eaten my jerky. I use the cheapest Worcestershire sauce because the higher end Worcestershire sauce it gives it a weirder taste. I don't know if it's better product or what, but I find the cheaper the seasoning, the better the flavor.
See, I like that. I'm all about cheap.
Has there been any research or study done on when, like, Minnesota northern lakes say there's a season for fishing and they kind of protect that spawn a little bit and say stay out of the spawning coves? Are those fisheries better for doing that, or does it matter?
So I have lightly looked into that. A lot of my study and stuff is on southern lakes and southern things. I've got a lot of colleagues who are from up north and have worked up north and still work up north. From what I understand and my belief on that situation is the reason they are protecting that spawn is because it's such a delicate balance on that. They don't have the hardiness of the fish we have down here. They don't have the reproduction number, and the fish aren't getting as much nutrition up there because the cold water lakes, it takes a smallmouth up there to get a big smallmouth. Like a 5-pound smallmouth is like a 10-plus-year-old fish.
Yeah.
Whereas a 5-pound largemouth down here is a 3 to 4-year-old fish. So those fish, it takes so long to get them so big, and if you take one out, it could decimate. You take 50 fish out of a lake, you can just absolutely decimate the reproduction of them fish. So they want to protect those spawning fish because they're so susceptible to being caught during the spawn up there with clear water, especially now if I'm facing sonar in those deeper areas like that. So I definitely think it's smart. I definitely think those fish is better for it. But it's because of the whole you'd see down here in Georgia or Mississippi or Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should all tournaments go to catch, weigh, and release? Uh-oh.
You threw that out there, didn't you, on purpose?
Yeah, no, I have an opinion on that.
On purpose. All right.
That's for the kayak guys.
Well, and again, I fish boat tournaments, but I am primarily a kayak guy. I do not think that they should all go to catch, weigh, release. Catch, weigh, release has its place. It is fantastic in MLF. I highly praise MLF for doing that. And everybody praises, Major League Fishing for doing that. But their qualifiers to go up to it, like the Toyota Series, are still 5-fish weigh-ins. The only place they do, catch, weigh, release is on the top level.
Right.
I think that and I'll probably catch flack for this from some fishermen and some biologists, and some fishermen biologists will praise for it. Everybody's got different opinions, and that's what I like about it. If you have a different opinion than me, I'll never hate you for having a different opinion, unless that opinion is you should not eat bass. But I believe that weigh-ins have a place, especially like the Elite Series and stuff like that. Because if you go to those Elite Series, and once coming to Columbus, Mississippi, and I went to the Opens here when it was here in Columbus, Mississippi, there were so many kids there, the next generation, getting to talk to these anglers, getting to see these big fish they caught, seeing what they did on these lakes, letting these kids know what kind of fish are out there and what's capable on these waters, even though they may not be able to caught them. Well, they can't, always watch on TV or something like that, but they can go see in person and see the atmosphere around it.
Right.
I believe that the 5-fish weigh-ins place in fishing is to bring in the next generation, the ooh, the ah, and even the newcomers. They see the camaraderie, the fish, and they see these live fish being brought in that they can take care of these fish, because a lot of them fish on the top levels are very well maintained, very well kept. So I believe there is a place for it. Should it be every single tournament? No. Can it work in kayak tournaments? No, but I have seen kayak fishermen build a homemade live well and fish in boat tournaments and have 5 fish to weigh in. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's got a great place for bringing the next generation, the ooh, the ah, and having everything done. But also, I can see where catch and release does have its place as well. But then again, catch and release is ruining some fisheries because no one's keeping any bass and they're becoming overpopulated. It's a ton of growth. So it's just a bunch of different factors and different reasoning.
Yeah. But I like that answer. I mean, it's for the next generation. You got to get people interested. And I think weigh-ins do that, you know, especially on the highest level. Now, Messick and Coleman, I'm going to skip your questions and come back to them because I was going to ask this question, and Anthony Hampton and Brad Silvers basically have brought it up. So bring up Anthony's thoughts on the effect of spawning fish being caught and weighed in for tournaments, and then go ahead and pull up Brad Silvers because they both kind of work together. What hurts a productive spawn worse? Here's his fisherman or shad and herring, but they're both around the spawn. What's your thoughts about guys fishing tournaments during bed season?
It depends on the lake and area. I don't think we should be targeting a lot of our smallmouth there in spawn because a lot of those are such fragile ecosystems, and it takes so long for those fish to reach a spawnable age. And if that fish is brought in before it lays them eggs and it pops them out in the live well or it dies or something like that, you know, that could actually decimate small populations. That's why you see a lot of them, a lot of your smallmouth lakes on the elite series and big tournaments being fished in the fall because it's beyond their spawn. The spawns happened. Down here in the south, I don't think it affects them as much. I believe that if you take that fat girl off a bed where she doesn't pop her eggs out and throw them back in, she'll go find another bed. She'll find another male out there, no problem. So it depends on your fisheries, and it depends on what the purpose of that fisheries is. I think smallmouth is smart not to, because they're such a fragile fish. They're such a delicate when it comes to their spawn and stuff, the delicate species, as opposed to your largemouth and spots. Now, as far as the herring and shad question goes, I believe that threadfin and stuff if they're heavy, threadfin lake could hurt the spawn somewhat, but it's a natural progression in that ecosystem as long as they're a natural species there. If they're added there and the fish have adapted to them, it's also okay. But if they're just thrown there all of a sudden, if you dump 10,000 shad out here like Lamar Bruce or somewhere, it's never had shad. Well, it's got shad now, but if it never had shad before and you dump that right before it spawn, it would decimate the bass population because they feed off eggs. They're nest robbers. So it all depends on environmental factors, when and where, and what's natural and what's not natural when it comes to questions like that.
Okay. Well, we're asking him a ton of questions tonight. You're doing fantastic with him. Now back to Messick's up there. Do northern waters get as hot during the summertime as those down south?
Now, to my knowledge, no, because I was fishing in Mississippi the other day, and the water temperature, the highest I've seen it fished was 98 degrees here. It was like bath water. I actually had to pull the scupper plugs in my kayak because my feet were on fire. It just doesn't get as hot up there as it does down here. Mm-hmm. You may hit some 80-degree water temps in some places, and a lot of places, especially your trout rivers, they'll say we don't need to fish it because the water temperature is 74 degrees and it could hurt the trout. This could greatly affect the trout population. I pick on the trout fishermen. I love y'all too because y'all provide great conservation stuff. But the water up there doesn't get as warm as it does down here. But warm water up there can still have the same effect as hot water does down here on the fish. So,
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. John, you just came back from Michigan, and I know in that kayak you probably didn't have the sonar or anything like that, but just kind of guess, I'm sure you felt it with your hands compared to.
We jumped in and swam, and it was much colder than down here.
Oh, for sure, because Ackworth gets hot.
Oh, yeah, it's been in the high 80s. I mean, it doesn't feel good to jump in.
Yeah, but you could tell a noticeable difference up there.
Yeah.
And so it's August here and August there. So yeah, I can see that. Coleman Jones wants to know, what's your dream lake to fish that maybe you haven't fished yet?
I would love to go to one of the big smallmouth lakes up north. The only place I've ever really got to target smallmouth was in Missouri when I was a bear biologist up there. And I've targeted them here on Pickwick, but I never really caught them. I would love to go up there and just catch some monster smallies, but I also want to go somewhere that I could possibly target muskie as well, because muskie is a bucket list fish for me. I very much.
You haven't caught a muskie yet?
No, I haven't caught a muskie yet.
You know we can do it in Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. In fact, my mother-in-law and them live right now from Fall Creek Falls, and they say muskie come in there, but I haven't got to catch one yet.
We need to go do that trip. You'll love it. Get on the Collins River up there. That is a fun drift, man, to try to do that. It's beautiful too.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
We can definitely do that. Anthony Hampton. Got to say I'm sorry to Anthony again for calling him out earlier incorrectly. My bad. Do you believe big fish, talking 5+ pounders, spawn more than once a year? I think they do. That's what Anthony thinks.
It very much depends on the lake. People will see or catch what they think is a fish that's building up eggs, because some fit bass will start building up eggs in the fall for a spring spawn. But if that water temperature stays just right for long enough, it can throw them into a false spawn type situation where they're acting like it. They may build a few eggs coming up, but they don't actually spawn. Now, I have seen some secondary spawns if we've had really warm falls or stuff and it stays in that magic zone for long enough. I have seen a second spawn in a lake, but on average, bass are going to spawn one time in the spring, because it's the only time it stays that correct, everything's in balance, that correct time for long enough to be. In the fall, it may throw them into a false spawn, but I have seen it. It's not a common occurrence.
Okay. You remember when Drew Cook was on?
Yeah.
He talked about seeing like spawning fish in the fall.
Yeah.
And he even said it might be a false spawn, but they do act like they're going through the motions.
And I don't know if it was Colin or who, but we had another biologist on that said it was most likely just the males going up and making a bed, and the females never come up.
Yeah.
And do the.
But we've heard people on this show talk about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty
More
interesting
than once.
right there. I like Crankin' and Yankin's comment right here, and I think this is really true. Pull that up. It is comparative to where the lake is located. We're talking about hot water again, but 90-degree water in Louisiana is a lot different than 90-degree water in Minnesota as far as how it affects the ecosystem.
Oh, 100%. Cranking and yanking, we may have different opinions on some things. And look, I'm all for people having different opinions on stuff. I know you're from Louisiana, so I know you eat bass, so we're good there, bud. But you're 100% correct on that. 90 degrees in Louisiana is way different than 90 degrees in Michigan or Minnesota, wherever he said there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And so, Cranking and Yanking, I appreciate you actually participating. Let's see. I saw there we go. Gone fishing with Ed. Is it water temperature or the amount of sunlight that triggers the spawn?
I believe it's water temperature that triggers the spawn. But so you have to look at it this way. The amount of sunlight we get directly affects the water temperature. So they kind of go hand in hand, but it's going to be your water temperature. And as Crankin' and Yankin said earlier, power plant lakes, fish can spawn year round. And bluegills is what they do. Bass, if you're gonna find a secondary spawn in a bass, it's gonna be at a place that has the stable temperature of water all year round, which a lot of your power plant lakes will have. So your spawn is a water temperature thing. The amount of sunlight, it affects it somewhat, but it's going to mainly be that stability of the water temperature.
What water temperature?
It depends on where you are a lot of times. I want to say around here, I'll see them start to bed really good around the 70-degree mark. They'll start moving up into the shallower water.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Now, Phil Hutchinson has put this down a couple of times. Thad, just remember that the brown trout world record is double the weight of the largemouth bass world record.
But they also, fish have what's known as indeterminate growth. They don't, as long as there's food and ample movement, they don't stop growing until they die. they just caught a 62-year-old, I don't remember if it was a brown trout or a lake trout. So if something lives for 40, 50 years, of course it's going to continue to grow as long as it's in a good environment versus something that lives 15 years on average or 10 years on average.
Right. He just like he's going listen, he is a cold water current guy. So he's always gonna throw them brown trout out there over
Hey,
bass.
and again, you know, I have nothing but love for the trout guys because they do push a ton of conservation. While they may not have the same mindset I do, I greatly appreciate what the trout people have done for aquatic conservation overall.
Gotcha. You got a question?
Yeah, if a boat ramp on a lake has a tournament week after week and those fish are released, how long do they stay there? Or do they hang out for like a week or two? And then when they decide to leave, how far do they travel away from that area?
So I've seen studies where some bass released will go all the way back to where they were caught, especially during
Right.
spawn.
Yep.
And that could be, you know, a mile away. And I've seen some where they'll stay there at that boat ramp for a week or two, or they'll stay there for, 48 hours. It's really dependent upon the fish and that area. I don't think there's a definitive answer for that type of question. There's a lot of what ifs
Right.
in a question like that, and there's a lot of what ifs in my world of science as is.
Okay.
All right, on that same thing, a fish released after a tournament, generally how long will it take them to kind of go back to feeding, get over the shock of being in a live well, weigh in and all that stuff?
I've caught bass fishing around a release, like I've caught them the next day. People say, the sore jaw is a thing, and it is in some aspects of it, but it really depends on how hungry that fish is. I've caught a fish that has like 4 or 5 holes all through its mouth. I was like, well, it's not healed up yet. Those are all pretty fresh. It's got a cold tag hole in it. So again, it all depends on that fish and how hungry it is and what it's doing. If you release it and it's pretty healthy, it's probably going to go back to eating pretty quickly. But if that thing's feeling sick and sorry, it's going to be a minute before it starts eating again.
Yeah. And so Steve Billington, he said, do you believe sore lip is real? Because I don't.
I saw a video from Alex Rudd where he caught a fish that had a hole in its mouth from a cold tag, and he said that kind of stuff won't heal. Is that true?
Not always. Sometimes it will heal. It all depends on how well that fish is taken care of. If it didn't get infected or something like that, because if that was true, we'd be seeing hundreds and hundreds of bass going around with cold tag and holes all in their mouth. Now I've seen holes on a catfish from a stringer that was all big and poofed up, and I've seen them in bass that have started to heal up on that. But I'm gonna say probably 7 out of 10 times those heal up all the way. It depends on fish and stuff like that. Just like you may not scar the same way I do, depending on what you eat afterwards or how you heal up. It's a very much an environmental factor at that point.
Look at cranking and yanking. Bass don't chew, they swallow. Lips ain't got nothing to do with it.
Hey, that's a fair point. They don't chew.
It is a fair point, but you can always count on cranking and yanking. Always count on him for a good time. Captain J. Morgan, Alabama bass. Are we doomed?
Are you talking about like the Alabama bass species, or are you talking about like shoal bass?
I think he's talking about like spots. Because a lot of them are like there's an Alabama and there's a Kentucky or whatever.
There's a few different
It's a
species of
subspecies,
spot.
but I think
there's multiple subspecies of them. I don't think y'all are doomed, but I think y'all better start making some tacos quick.
Like all I needed was permission.
Yeah.
I like that. And I actually think over here at Latham, a lot of those spots need to be taken out.
Oh yeah.
Because you used to catch a lot bigger largemouth.
They used to have like, if you catch a fish between this length and this length, keep it, get rid of it, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't see them doing that anymore.
No. What's up, Isaac?
How far north do the spots go? Because we were talking about the smallmouth here in Georgia. I've really been messed up by the spots.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't catch a spot in Michigan and caught a bunch of smallmouth. What's their range, and are they slowly working their way up there?
Like armadillos.
Yes.
The armadillos are moving north, man.
Their range is as far as stupid people will take them and put them in lakes.
Oh, okay. So you think a spot could survive up there, like in, Saginaw Bay and all that stuff?
I think if you released 100 of them, I think 10 of them would adapt and 10 of them would reproduce and pass on those adaptive genes. You think California largemouth aren't supposed to be? They're not. They're not really supposed to be anywhere, east of the Mississippi. In a lot of aspects of it. If you look at how fish have moved around, there's largemouth bass in Germany and Japan. Brown trout aren't native here. I think it's brown
That's
trout
right.
that aren't native here. They're from Germany. So a lot of these fish that we hold so dear, invasive species that we've released in different parts of the world, in different parts of the country. So can they adapt and survive? Yes. I mean, there's an Alaskan state record for largemouth. So
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. That makes sense. Isaac wants to know where smallmouth are in Georgia. You can still find a few in Blue Ridge. They may be a unicorn or two in Notley, Chattooga. There's still a few up there, but yeah, Chattooga, they're unicorn. But they used to be a lot more before the spots got in there. If largemouth can live under ice, spots can too.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that.
Spots are just trailer park, a smallmouth.
A what?
Just a smallmouth from a trailer park.
Spot is?
Yeah.
Just an ugly cousin. What do you mean from a trailer park, dude?
Just a redneck. Just a
Good
redneck
Lord.
smallie.
Listen, I respect the people in the trailer parks. They buy lures too, but I get what you're saying. I lived in a trailer. Brown trout are native to Europe, North Africa, and Asia. So
Okay,
yeah,
so I was right on that one.
yeah. So you were right on that one. We won't get no pushback on that. All right. So look, we're hour 55 in. Do any of you guys in here have a question before we start kind of fading off for tonight?
We're talking about invasive fish.
Okay.
What about like invasive vegetation? So say if you're fishing Gunnersville,
Oh.
do you clean your kayak up before you go launch
What
it
the
in
hell?
a
You
lake
get
at
like
home?
a really loaded question right here at the end of the night.
Hoses over at Gunner?
I
Yeah.
will say this. They have found if I come back from Gunnersville, I clean my trailer very well because I don't want hydrilla and stuff like that here. Mississippi has 2 federally noxious weeds and one we just consider a noxious weed as a native. But missile grass is not from Mississippi. They consider it a noxious weed. The federal ones are giant Savinia and hydrilla. And that giant Savinia, they found it at the headwaters of the Pearl, which leads to the Ross Barnett. And last time, like 20 acres got down there, I mean, they spent $1 million almost trying to get rid of it. Plants like that can double, some of these in the right conditions can double their biomass every 24 to 48 hours. So if you have 1 acre of that, and they found some in a farmer's pond that was brought in from Magoose, and they nuked his lake completely. And they found some more in the headwaters of the Pearl, and they are just putting the hottest stuff they can on it with flying drones, boats, everything. If you have 1 acre of that and it doubles every 24 hours in perfect conditions, which it can hit Mississippi, in 10 days you're going to go 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, to 6, and it's going to continue to double, and you will have an uncontrollable population of that, and it will completely choke out and kill lakes. So I'm very much anti-invasive species when it comes to stuff like that, especially vegetation, because it can. Once the government gets into it and have to nuke something, not only will they kill the vegetation, but there's a high chance it will kill all the fish and stuff in that lake and have to start
That
from
was gonna be
scratch.
my next
Yeah,
question.
I did not realize that it could spread that fast. That's crazy. Now, real quick, before you get to yours, Ken, on TikTok, G219, and this is a high compliment, Thad. A biologist that has as much common sense as book sense seems to be pretty rare, but this guy has got it. So, that's high praise right there.
Well, man, on TikTok, thank you. Head over to Thad Mooney's Outdoor on TikTok and look me up on that. But I want to say the reason I do is because I not only sit behind a desk and did my research, I not only, went to school for it, but my professors were very much hands-on, and they said, go to the people and talk to them and see what they believe and find ways to incorporate real life stuff, because the stuff you see in the lab is not going to work in real life situations. There's too many environmental factors in it.
Okay.
So I'm very much I fish tournaments and I study fish. So I try to incorporate both worlds into what I put out there.
Okay. Before you answer your question, pull up Walleye Channel. Because I'm fair. I'll give the guy his say. These lives stink. No one ever wants to talk about big walleye at night. I'm a bass fisherman and a ranger throwing walking baits, but none of you have ever done it to talk about it.
Hey, I've talked about walleye 3 times tonight. Thank you, sir.
He has, and I get it, but you got to understand too. Walleye Channel, you got to read the room. We talk bass fishing here probably more than anything, probably 99% of the time. So I appreciate you watching. Where we live, walleye is not a big thing. And so you kind of have to understand that. But I appreciate you watching it. I hate you think it stinks, but I hope you come back. We appreciate the comment.
Walleye channel. I've talked about them trying to bring walleye back to Mississippi. So I love walleye. They are delicious fish when I've eaten them up north.
They taste good.
They are fantastic.
Cranking and yanking. What's a walleye? All right, Ken, go ahead real quick.
All right. So if we got muddy water in Mississippi, 6 foot or less, how far away can a bass see a lure?
It depends on how. So, I mean, if they got 6 foot of viz, it's not just a real muddy place here in Mississippi. I'm talking I'm throwing, black and blue stick baits in 6 foot of viz here, or 6 inches of viz here sometimes. Yeah. They can probably, they're using more of their lateral line and vibration to hunt at that point, and a lot of these mercury ones. But I will say probably a foot or two if it's real murky, maybe 3 or 4 feet. If it's decently murky, they can see these baits and move to attack them.
I've heard like 3 feet, but
yeah,
when you're talking muddy water, but nobody really said for sure. It was just more of a guys talking,
right?
And it depends on what people think is muddy water too.
Right.
Some people think I can only see 10 feet down. That's muddy water, and I'm like, I can't see the bottom in 6 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Final question of the night. Thad, do you believe we landed on the moon? That's what we talked about during the lunch break.
So I commented on that earlier. I saw a thing. I believe we landed on the moon, but I saw a guy say something one time. It was like, I think we landed on the moon, but the reason the footage looks like that is because they had to refilm it because there was aliens up there and said, y'all need to get back to Earth. This is our area. Don't come back. So they had to refilm part of it in a Hollywood studio.
All right, so we'll leave it at that. And I'm sorry I can't get to all the questions, but he's been gracious enough to give us 2 hours of his time. And plus, these guys beside me got to go to work tomorrow and all that. So we're going to end that. We're going to end the night right there. So Thad, first of all, I appreciate, number one, you watch the show, during the time. So I appreciate you doing that and then being able to come on. And I think nobody here would be disappointed if we brought you back pretty quick in the near future.
Hey, I'm for it, man.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. Maybe give you a week or two to go talk to all the other things and cheat on me like Ken does with the other podcasts and everything. But real quick, tell everybody where they can follow you on your social media and your YouTube channel.
So I've got Instagram and TikTok, both Thad Moody Outdoors. I don't have a Facebook for my fishing stuff. So TikTok and Instagram, Thad Moody Outdoors. YouTube is Thad Moody Outdoors as well, and I do have a podcast on there called Bass and Biology. I just started the YouTube stuff on it, so go subscribe to it. And if there's stuff y'all want to see me talk about in these podcasts, subscribe, comment. I will do my best to cover everything I possibly can to the best of my knowledge and provide studies and stuff to go along with information that I have. So Thad Moody Outdoors YouTube, go subscribe to it. Bass and Biology is my podcast on there. I will lay your questions out. I will find them the best I can, and I will actually comment on this thing right now for my Thad Moody Outdoors.
You gonna throw the link out there?
Yeah.
I will say this, and Ken gets on to me. I do not listen to a lot of other podcasts. I should listen to more, but I don't. But yours is one that I actually have listened to what you put out there, trying to learn. And you really have some great information on that. So for me to actually listen to you is that's saying something. Because the rest of them kind of
appreciate it.
They really do. They kind of bore me. But I should listen to more. Look, he's rolling his eyes at me like that. So anyway, buddy, I appreciate you joining us tonight. And you guys, listen, thank you for taking part. If we missed your question, I'm sorry, but he answered a ton of questions tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll have you on real quick in the near future, but thank you for coming on, and best of luck with your podcast and, your future endeavors with that.
I appreciate it, y'all. Thank y'all so much. I look forward to being back on. And if I didn't hit y'all's question tonight, go comment on my videos, watch my videos, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions in podcast form at some point or another.
Absolutely. And so, guys, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Tomorrow, at 12 o'clock, we'll be back on TikTok and YouTube with another lunch break. and we may pick up on the moon question. We'll probably talk a lot about what we heard tonight. So you guys jump on tomorrow at noon, and we'll talk to you then. So with that, we're going to tell everybody good night. Y'all go get some sleep, and we'll see you tomorrow. Now let me cut my TikTok guys off.